Welcome to Friday Night Lights. We are out here filming for the men's conference, and we thought while we're here, let's do Psalm of the Day. So I'm sorry we're not coming to you live on Friday, September 19th, but that's because we are getting ready for an epic conference of over 500 men. And so I am busy getting ready for that, but not too busy to do Psalm of the Day with all of you. And I'm really excited for Psalm 25. I want to start with a question. How many players are on a football field at a time? If you add both teams together, it's how many players? Well, you got 11 on one team and 11 on the other. That's 22. Let me ask you a second question. How many verses are in Psalm 25? Well, if you've read it, you might know that the answer is 22. And how many letters are in the Hebrew alphabet? Do you see where this is going? Take a guess. Would it be 22? So Psalm 25 has 22 verses, and each verse begins with one of the Hebrew letters, roughly going through their entire alphabet. It's an acrostic. An acrostic is a different type of poetry where you take, like let's say you took my name, Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, and then you'd have to have all these lines that started with B, and you'd make an acrostic coming out from those letters. Well, they take the letters going through the Hebrew alphabet, and each one of them begins a new line. And so you might have noticed when you read Psalm 25, if you've read it already, and I hope you have, because that's the point, not just to watch the videos, but to read the Psalms. And if you read Psalm 25, it's not as linear a flow of thought. It's almost like it's got a bunch of different lines, and there's some very similar themes, but it doesn't just flow like the prayers of some of the other Psalms or some of these masterpieces that David has written. No, this is more like a line for Aleph and a line for Beit and a line for Gimel, and all through the Hebrew alphabet. And so that's what you have here. This is a different kind of poetry, a 22-line acrostic. In fact, let me just show you my Hebrew Bible. It opens from the right to the left, and you can see in Psalm 25, you can't really tell, I guess, unless you know the Hebrew alphabet, but every one of those verses is starting with a new letter. It's kind of a rough outline for the whole chapter. So then when we start opening up Psalm 25 and we start paying attention to the themes, first thing that jumped out to me was verse 3, "Indeed, none who wait for you shall be put to shame." So I started to look for what are some of the repeated words in the different lines. And this idea of waiting on God, to me, this is one of the fundamental things that every Christian needs to learn from the Psalms. Life is not going to happen in your timing. Life happens in God's timing. And so some of the time we are waiting, and waiting is not this passive thing where I'm doing nothing. Waiting is an active trust that God is going to do it in His timing. It's a looking to Yahweh. And so that's what we have here. Those who wait on the Lord will never be put to shame. What a statement. In fact, in verse 5, it says, "Lead me in your truth and teach me. You are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." See, we're not very good at waiting all the day long, right? But that's what he says he's doing for God. In fact, waiting comes up again all the way towards the end in verse 21. "May integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait for you." So the disposition of David's heart is he's looking for God to do something, and he's looking to him until it happens. He's looking with faith. So I'm going to be drawing this out as many Psalms as I can, because I can tell you, now being a part of our church for 11 years here in Huntington Beach, it's been awesome. I mean, the fact that we've got 500 men coming to this conference tonight, so encouraging. I'm excited to see what God's going to do, but it doesn't always happen as fast as I'm ready for it to happen. A lot of times I can see what we need next, but just because I can see it doesn't mean it's here right now. So waiting on the Lord is something God has taught me so much about. And I hope the Psalms, if you're going to know God, you're waiting on Him, you're looking to Him. You're not just like do it now all the time. No, you trust Him. and you're ready for him to do it in his timing. You know he's going to do it because you know those who wait on the Lord will not be put to shame. Now, I love the prayer here in Psalm 25:4. Make me to know your ways, Yahweh. Teach me your paths. So here's a prayer. God, I want to walk in your ways. I want to know your ways. I want to walk in your paths. Teach me. Show me. Now, I don't think this is necessarily about commands like some of the other Psalms. I think this is more about God's character. And we get a lot of references to who God is in Psalm 25. In fact, we get Hesed 3 times. In verse 6, in verse 7, and verse 10. We get God's steadfast love. We also have a response of fearing God in verses 12 and 14. So there's a lot of, God, make me know who you are. This is like a perfect, it's time to know God prayer. God, I want to know your ways. I want to know your paths. And then it starts to get revealed. In fact, hey, God, remember your mercy. Please don't remember my sin. So he starts to appeal like, God, what are you going to remember? Please remember me with mercy. Don't remember me with my sin, but remember me according to who you are, not according to who I am. For your name's sake, according to your goodness, who you are. That's the appeal here. This psalm is saying, I want to know you. So some of these lines here in Psalm 25, in fact, that's what I want you to do is leave a comment down below. What's the line that's going to be your prayer coming out of Psalm 25? And it might be hard to just choose one, but these lines are meant to be prayed as we wait on God because we know who God is. Now, verse 10, all the paths of Yahweh are steadfast love and faithfulness for those who keep his covenant and his testimonies. That's definitely a quote from Exodus 34, 6 and 7, right? The paths of Yahweh, what are they? Well, he's a God who abounds in steadfast love, his Hesed covenant love where he's ready to forgive you, but then also his faithfulness. He's going to do what he says. He's going to be truthful to his word, and if he said you're going to be judged for doing this, then you're going to be judged for doing this. All the paths of God, they don't change. I want to know the paths. I want God to teach me. But God's always the same. God is abounding in steadfast love, ready to forgive the sinner. God is faithful. He's always going to do what he says, even if it means judgment. Those ways of God are not changing. Those are his paths. And that's what David is saying here. I want to know your ways. And I do because I know who you are. You've revealed yourself. He's continuing to meditate on how Yahweh has made himself known in the law. In fact, he says in verse 12, who is the man who fears Yahweh? Him will he instruct in the way that he should choose. If you fear God, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord causes you to turn away from evil. I don't want to keep doing evil. God will judge me if I keep doing evil. So I fear God. I turn away from evil. And now God instructs me in the way that he should choose. His soul shall abide in well-being, and his offspring shall inherit the land. I love this line, verse 14. The friendship of Yahweh is with those who fear him. See, we don't often associate fear and friendship, but that's how it works with Yahweh. If you fear Yahweh, then you don't want to displease him. You don't want to go your own way. You learn to go his way. You become his friend. He makes known to them his covenant. You can know God. That's what Psalm 25 is saying. And if you pray, God, make me know your ways. Teach me your paths. Show me your attributes. I want to know your love, and I want to know it's the constant of my life, but I also want to fear you and turn away from evil to become your friend and to walk in your ways. So you can see, we got the cars out here. You might have heard people playing baseball out here. There's a lot going on in the world, but there's nothing more important going on than knowing God. So what is the verse that you're going to pray today? And if you could just take some time at the end of this to pray for this men's conference. So I've been poring all week over this roster that's coming together, 500 strong. And so many of these brothers are guys who are here all the time. The overwhelming majority of these guys, they go to fellowship groups at our church. And so we want them to mature. We want them to stop reacting defensively to what other people are doing, and we want them to be the leaders that God has called them to be. You don't become a leader by telling other people what to do. You become a leader by doing what God tells you to do. And we want to see the men of our church mature. How the men go will affect their wives, it will affect their kids, it will affect their workplaces. We need godly men. But here's what happens. It's a men's conference, and these godly men, they get excited. They invite guys who are not godly men. And so we've got guys who are coming to our church tonight who maybe wouldn't even come to a regular service, but because they're a husband or because they're a dad or because they have a job, they know they need to learn a little bit how to have those relationships or how to do that work. And so they're coming to our church tonight, Friday, September 19th. And so will you join me in praying that the Word of God will do a mighty work among the men? I've been working hard on this little booklet, this book, like it's 40 pages. And not only are the guys going to take their notes from the conference, but it's meant to lead to ongoing study and really ongoing huddles where the brothers get together and they say, are we running the plays that God wrote for us? Because he told us how to be his husbands and dads and in the workplace. Are we running those plays that God gave us, or are we doing our own thing? Will you pray for the men? Oh, I would love for us to be able to say someday in the future, oh, that men's conference we did in September of 2025, that was the game changer where God took the men, the deal makers, and he did something mighty in their hearts. Will you join me in praying that today? And then I hope to see you this weekend at church, because Jesus is going to be walking on water, and we're still going through the Gospel of Mark. So I'm excited to see what God is going to do, because I know who God is. I know his ways. I know his paths. They abound in steadfast love and faithfulness. God is someone you can become friends with, and he's someone to fear, and it's all at the same time. And it may not be happening now, but he's worth waiting for. So what's your verse from Psalm 25? Leave it in the comments down below. What do you guys think? We're 25 chapters in. Should we keep doing Psalm of the Day, or should we kind of call it in now? Let me know in the comments. And Lord willing, I'll see you for more.